Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Alex's Afternoon Art Show. Today, we are doing something mercifully simple for our last of the Halloween videos. No, the semi-Halloween themed videos that I'm doing. But yeah, this is the last one. This one should be coming out only a couple of days before Halloween. So, yeah, today we're doing Spawn, but we're doing a profile shot of Spawn. So this will be a little simpler, a little easier, and something just nice and easy to do for the last one of these. But yeah, this should be okay enough, I think. I shouldn't be, yeah, I shouldn't be taking hours and hours and hours to do this. This one should be, well, it'll still be hours, but it'll be significantly faster than some of the other ones because I've still got a lot of painting to do. But you know, it's easier in theory. Yeah. So, with all that said, I will, yeah, roll the intro and I'll show you what I got. So yeah. Okay, so this is what I got. We've gone for something very basic. Just a simple profile shot. And yeah, for the most part, this isn't going to be too hard. But yeah, you can see I've gone for the kind of fleshier tone to Spawn's costume, because it's generally what it tends to float around, and what I can tell at least. I don't know much about Spawn, but I watched some of the animated series. Not a huge amount, but some of it. Yeah, so I decided to go for a few things, like the pointed shoulders, because that's obviously a very big element. Most of this is going to be the cape, covering a lot of this stuff, but I think that makes some of it look more interesting. It creates some of these more interesting kind of ripples and shapes, which I like to do. I have the top, this kind of like head cup thing on the cape, coming up very high, comes up above his head, covers some of it, but this the smoke coming out of his eyes is going to go over that. So yeah, with the eye smoke, that is, I think I have an idea for an effect that I'm going to do on that. But what I'm going to do is, when it gets to the shading and stuff like that, the front here, this is all going to be darkened. All this is going to be darkened. All the light is going to be on the edges. So that basically I'm going to be doing, yeah, effectively, like, a lot of these elements are going to be dark. I'm going to be doing very minimal light line around this, just so that you can see some of these details, and some of that on the front, just so that, again, some of this is visible. But largely a lot of the front stuff is going to be dark, and isn't going to have very much light on it at all. But yeah, so let me zoom in so that I can talk about some of these minor elements. When it comes to stuff like the eyes, I was thinking of doing the triangle eyes like I did with Batman, because technically speaking that's the kind of eyes that Spawn would have, but I decided to go for more normal human shaped eyes, mostly because I'm doing more of a kind of a much more detailed kind of face and body, so I feel like it would look strange if the triangle eyes were kind of here. So yeah, I've decided to go for this, and yeah, there's all the kind of like fleshy tones and kind of little like, because whenever you get someone who's very muscular, you'll see these little like kind of stretch marks across their chest, and down into their kind of like above their abs and stuff like this. Obviously there's the kind of like rib cage musculature coming along there, but you're not going to see much of that. That's mostly just there for my own reference. But yeah, like a lot of this is just going to be the robe, or the cloak. Jeez, getting very tongue-tied today. Yeah, most of this is just going to be the cloak, but yeah, I don't know if, I think on the background I'm just gonna maybe do black. I'm not gonna do pure black, but I'll do like something black, and then I'll just have like a little green glow in little bits coming out from behind him, because then I'll have green light coming onto the back of him, maybe a little bit of a green light line, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think there's a huge amount I need to go over before I start. Most of this is going to be fairly simple. It's not a complicated drawing, it's a very simple profile shot. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to do here. Something a bit more simple, because I feel like it's been God knows how long since I have done something simple on the art show. even the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 drawings were reasonably complicated in some sense, because I had to do a full figure. This is just a little profile shot, and it's not even a full body. It's not a full body, it's not even like it's sort of a 3/4 shot. So what I mean to say whenever I say 3/4 shot is the face is divided obviously into so many pieces. A half shot would be a side profile, 3/4 shot is something like this, where you could still see a chunk of the side of the face. And then obviously a full face, that's just front shot. But yeah, so 3/4 shot is something like this, where some of the side of the face is kind of covered, and that's what we've got here. This is a 3/4 shot, 3/4 body as well, because his body is also facing out that way. Because again, you could do 3/4 head, but full body, or half body, 3/4. Again, it all divides into these different little ways that you can do it, but that's kind of what I mean here. And the profile shot obviously is something where it's a focused part of the form. So here it's mostly focused on the head and upper body. So this is a 3/4 head, 3/4 body profile. But yeah, I think that's all the little stuff I needed to go over. Yeah, I think I'm going to get into this and start. This spawn design is mostly just kind of normal spawn design. You can't see any of the stuff like his one giant boot that would distinguish him from other spawns with his giant boot. But maybe he has the giant boot on this design. You could theorize if you wanted. He could have the giant boot, he might not. But yeah, I'm going just for kind of normal spawn design, slightly based on how he looked in Mortal Kombat 11, because that was the reference image I used for this whenever I was drawing it. Not the actual reference that I had in here to base off the actual pose, but that was the reference I had for visually while I was doing it, just for context. But yeah, I will begin. I don't know how much I need to zoom in on this here for this, because realistically speaking, I can, yeah, that'll work. I'll do it very zoomed in so you can see all the granular detail. Anyways. Okay, so that is our details done, and shockingly, in a period of time that didn't take that long. So that was an hour and a half on the details, reasonably quick. So now we've got to do the green, which I'm fairly certain that his eyes are normally kind of a lime green sort of thing, more on the kind of slightly lower on the lime scale. I think this is it's more of a mid green that I've gone for here. That should work more or less for what I want. But yeah, so in terms of the colors, as I say, I'm going to be doing reasonably flat, obviously green, white, black, red, a little bit of silver. But yeah, the colors most likely won't take very long because most of it is red. So once I get past all those little colors, it'll be primarily red, and that will be very quick to do. Background, I'll probably do the background in this section as well because the background won't take very long, and then the painting afterwards will be reasonably quick, but I'll obviously introduce that because that'll take a little bit longer. But yeah, so I think I don't need to talk a huge amount about this. Yeah, again, most of what I was doing with the details was I did like fairly thick lines up to a certain. Once I got to the kind of core parts of the cloak, I just start doing big thick lines and then just trimming bits off of them as I went. Because there's no need to be super particular about it whenever you're doing like folds or anything like that. You don't need a fold to be super accurate. You just need it to be the fold. You just need it to be a fold like this. This is, you got these little folds going all in every which way, but I don't need to be particularly specific about them. Just do them as they are. That's kind of the thought process I have. I don't need to be detailed with them as I do with muscle or with the kind of the face shape or anything like that. I can afford to be a little bit messier with the kind of which ways the folds kind of fall in. But yeah, so far this isn't too bad. This is reasonably simple, reasonably easy to do. But yeah, I will do these colors and then I'll be back to introduce the painting. Okay, so we're 2 hours in, we're kind of getting there already, which is pretty good. That was the whole point of this idea. So yeah, things are finally going to plan for once. But anyways, I got the paints ready here to do. I've decided to go to kind of throw caution against the wind and just go for the brightest colors that I could grab, because on a lot of the reference that I have here in front of me of Spawn, a lot of these colors are really aggressive. So that's kind of what I'm going for here. They'll obviously get washed out a little bit by the paints, which you'll see in a minute. But stuff like the green will not until we get to the grading maps. Then it'll kind of wash it out. But yeah, so basically what you see here, I may as well explain it now. What you see here, this is basically the colors that would not print. So if I were to print this, this particular green would get washed out because it's in the gray area here, meaning that it won't really print. Because I think this is basically a mask for like CMYK color palettes and stuff like that. Even though technically, I mean, the screens are all in RGB, so this green obviously appears as it should. So yeah, that's the thing. So basically, that's just if I wanted to print this out or something like that, these colors would get pretty washed out. But if they're within the colored area, then they're fine. But if they're in the gray area, like here, that won't print. So that's what happens there. They won't print if they're within that gray area. That's why that mask is there. And it's sometimes just a good idea to keep an eye on it, because it gives you a range of colors of where it's like, okay, these are colors which are a little bit more they're a little bit more kind of slightly duller, slightly more kind of accessible to the eye. So obviously a lot of purple gets washed out, a lot of green gets washed out. Green and purple are kind of the same range, but green you don't get quite as many of the darker ones even. But yeah, red is mostly fine, orange is mostly fine, even yellow is yeah, mostly fine. Blue, depending on the blue, is okay. A lot of the lighter blues, the cyans, because of course that's what the C in CMYK stands for, are mostly fine. But yeah, this is the thing. Those are the colors that kind of get affected the most. So this is the thing. I've decided to say, screw it, I'm not going to print this, so what does it matter? So I decided to go for a green, which is really bright, because it's more accurate to how his kind of eye mist normally looks. So that's what I'm rolling with. But yeah, so I will prepare my my paint colors. I'm starting with the silver here. So we're going to want to go for something greenish for our color palette. But what I might do, you know, I will kind of stick with even green for the darker colors, but maybe more on the blue scale actually. Yeah, maybe blue is what we're going to go for with the darker colors, because I don't normally do that. So we'll go for blue on our darker colors, and then green on our lighter colors. Meaning this red is going to get pretty washed out, which is, I mean, that's the benefit of doing it so bright, is that when it does get washed out, it'll still be bright. So, yeah. Anyways, I will do these paints, and then I'll be back to do the detail shading and the light line. Okay. Okay, so that is our painted shading done. So now I'm going to move on to the detailed shading. I'm going to switch back my brushes, which I need to do. And then, yeah, I think this is coming together nicely, more or less. And again, reasonably quick. We're nearly 3 hours in, which is reasonably quick for one of these more recent ones. But I think I'm getting the energy that I want out of it. It's simple. It is mercifully simple. Obviously, the kind of darker parts of the red here are looking very purple, but with the detail shading, I'm going to be able to fix that, because what I'm going to do for my darker color, actually I should probably select my lighter color first, so actually I'm probably going to want something like this. Maybe even slightly yellower for that. And then for this, I'm going to want a bluey color. And that's what I'm going to go for on my darker color, because we're doing the blue and green, more or less, is what we're going for. So yeah, I'm going to be able to tidy up some of this kind of purpley looking stuff, some of this stuff like on the black, which is a little too dull, if not quite the right color. I can brighten that up a little bit with my shading, and I can, yeah, darken out some of these purples, which are maybe a little too vivid. But yeah, so I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do the light line. The light line I'll do is probably going to be green. Probably do a green light line, something like that, and then I will wrap everything up, and then that'll be us. So, yeah, I'll do all those gradient maps and everything then. So yeah, I will do this detailed shading, and then I'll be back. Okay, so that is everything done, more or less. Well, I have one last thing to do. I have to sign it, don't I? That'll only take a second. If I find a good place for it, I will just slap it here. Switch it to the black. Probably switch it to the black, yeah. It's a little hard to see, but it's fine. No, I mean it's fine. It's against another color, which makes it visible. So yeah, right. It is time now to do our gradient maps. So our gradient maps, I'm going to be going for again something just like the kind of the general color palette that we've largely been sticking with. So for the black, I'm going to be, or for our darkest, I'm going to go for kind of a mid blue, a mid dark blue, and make that pretty dark. Then for our lightest color, I'm going to go for a very bright green, because we're going to want this to be quite an electric color scheme. So I'm going to put that there, make this one that kind of a green, make it about here, because we want the rest of this to be pretty dark. So this next one we want to be about this kind of blue and very dark. And that's kind of what we're going for here. So we want this to be pretty dark as a color palette goes. So right, now let's see how this looks in overlay. Perfect, it's very dark. See, I usually use the overlay to gauge things, even though I never use overlays really in terms of the color palettes. I tend to stick to things that are a little less aggressive, so that is doing quite a bit to make it pretty pretty dark, which is good. It's what we want, to make it really dark, to make it really green. Because yeah, let's turn it off again. Yeah, it kind of brings a lot of the colors together in a nice little way. I might even bring it up to 70%, because that seems, yeah, we want it to be pretty aggressive. Right, now what do we want to do? I'm going to create a duplicate of this, and we're going to do a luminosity layer on this one. We want it to be pretty aggressive again. We want it to be dark, so I'm going to make this one about like 25%. Because again, we have to bear in mind that this is going to get brightened quite a bit by the texture whenever I put that on. So yeah, I put on another gradient map. Let's make this one a color burn. This is going to make it very dark. I'm going to make this one pretty small, 5% only. So yeah. So you can see with the color burn that it kind of, with some of these like kind of more textured brush bits, that it kind of brings them together a little bit. It kind of crunches them down a little bit in a way that I think is quite nice. But yeah, so that is all the gradient maps that I needed to do. So now I'm going to grab the texture, and the texture is just going to add that little bit of kind of, I suppose, texturing to it. I don't know really how else to describe it. It's just going to give it kind of that overall watercolory look to the overall kind of color scheme, but I am going to have to do a rotate 90 degrees, and then just so that it remains in vertical, because we are going to want it vertical. This is then going to become an overlay, and it is going to be about 30%, I think, or no, maybe 25. Because we always want our texture to be subtle, because it does like significantly brighten the actual colors. You can see it there, it brightens it quite a bit. So this is the thing. Yeah, that more or less does what we want it to. It disperses our background mostly. That's generally what I use the textures for these days, mostly to kind of disperse some of the background and add a little bit of flavor to the colors that we've got going on. Like to this very bright green here, because it's not shaded in any way, we need something to give it a bit more texture to it, a little bit more kind of like a brush stroke to it. So whenever we zoom into this, we can see that yes, it's still got that, you can see this kind of a little bit of blotchiness to it. And then of course in the background, it is dispersing our background color into an almost smoky look, which is what we want. We want it to kind of look as though it's kind of smoking out from behind him, so that it looks a little bit moodier, like that. A little bit moodier, a little bit more atmospheric. And again, with the darkness that we're going for, that's kind of what we want here, for it to be kind of very atmospheric, very moody looking. But overall, This is one of the kind of visually darker ones that I've been doing in this Halloween chunk. But with all that said, this is the last of our Halloween ones. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed these little four-part mini-series, I suppose. I mean, they're not really connected in much of a way, but I suppose there's a vague theme there with them being all Halloween ones. I might do these every now and then, just for, this every year maybe. Just a collection of 4 Halloween-y drawings. I think it's kind of fun. Because yeah, I mean, it wasn't that hard to select them, and just had a bit of fun doing them. Had a few decent ideas, and it was all very an interesting way to do some very intense color palettes. Like with this, obviously the very intense blue and green isn't a color palette that I'd normally go for because it's a little too kind of electric to fit in some of the normal ones that I would do. So yeah, with this it's a very electric green that I've got going on, very aggressive, very bright with all the different greens, and then with the subtle kind of blue hue that everything else has, it does a lot to kind of be a little aggressive on the eyes. But yeah, it's something that I wouldn't normally go for, but it's nice to be able to do it under some context. Same with the Morrigan drawing. I had a very intense purple and green color palette. Even the Batman one, very red, very purple. With the Ghost Rider one, very dark kind of orangey brown kind of color palette, which isn't something I'd normally go for, but it's an interesting different look. And all 4 of these drawings have very weird different kind of color palettes to them, so it's nice whenever it's a small collection of drawings that I can pretty much diversify them in a, or I can, because there's such a small number of them, they can be pretty distinct. Dog always barks at the end of these now for some reason. It's always fun. But yeah. So yeah, with all that said, that is us, I think. So I hope you enjoyed these. This was a nice little diversion, I think, from the normal art videos. But of course, the art videos are going to be continuing as normal next week. So we'll be outside of the Halloween theme, so we'll just be doing some more kind of random ones, some different stuff. The next one I want to do, I haven't actually planned it yet, because I'm doing these ones in bulk, because I have a kind of deadline on them. With the Halloween ones, there's obviously a more immediate deadline. But yeah. So the next ones I haven't really planned yet, but yeah, I guess you'll find out next week what the next one is. But yeah. So, yeah. Well, that said, that is the Halloween drawings done. So, yeah. This one will be coming out a couple of days before Halloween, so I suppose I may as well wish you a happy Halloween, because there's not going to be anything else coming out on... Well, no, I won't be releasing anything on that day. So, yeah. Happy Halloween. Be safe. Don't be stupid. Be safe. That's my motto. Don't be dumb. Be safe. But yeah. Yeah. So, that is us. I will do the outro, then I'll leave you. So yeah. If you like the video, do whatever it is that you normally do, whether that be liking or not. I would of course prefer if you liked it, but not everyone's going to do that. If you would prefer not to, that's fine. Same deal, if you want to subscribe, I would of course prefer if you did that, but if you would prefer to stay unsubscribed, that's fine. You know where the button is if you ever change your mind. You've presumably seen a YouTube video before, so I don't need to tell you where that button is. Yeah, and if you decide to watch the next video, I will see you next time. So, with all that said, happy Halloween, and bye-bye.